Hey lads, happy Easter. Welcome to Tripod Rapid Reaction to NRL Round 6. Usually it's myself and Alex recapping the round that was after we share our best bets every week on the NRL, but Alex is off gallivanting in the far north Queensland, so you've got to deal with my mug on its own, so I'll be barbecuing alone, and I'll keep it short because it's been a bit of a frantic weekend, but a lot of really enjoyable footy. The game that just ended was not enjoyable for us. We actually had a couple of tips on that game and got roped into a couple of plays favouring the Tigers, and we did say on Wednesday we didn't really want to be on the Tigers. We knew that the opening of this stadium with the Eels getting first dibs on the tickets, they could be really amped and really want to put on a show. And then we were looking at the markets and, with Fergo likely to be out, we got good odds on the Tigers in the first half, catching half a point, and odds on a Eels tries market. And we got sucked in and we took it, and those bets lost. But overall for the round, 18 wins, 9 losses. We won 2 out of 4 multis, made profit there, 59% on the season, so we're climbing right back up to 60% winners, which is where we want to be. But as I said, Eels won 51-6, and I think just you can't learn a lot from those games once one side gets ahead like that, and they just got a full head of steam, and the Tigers just shut up shop. And with all the momentum and atmosphere in what looks like an amazing venue in Bankwest Stadium, they just got absolutely obliterated. Let's go all the way back to Thursday night, which was a pretty crazy game. The Sharks 24, the Panthers 20. Now, we had 6 best bets on the game, won 5 of them, and the only one we didn't win was Panthers +4, and the final score, they lose by 4, so we get a push on that. So 5 winners, 0 losses, and 1 push. And it was a crazy game. The Panthers led 14-0 at halftime, if you didn't see it, 20-6. With about an hour to go. They had the game wrapped up, and it was the complete reverse of the finals last year. If you remember, it was the Sharkies, I think, who were leading the Panthers by the same score, around 20-6 in the finals. Panthers came all the way back last year, but in both cases, it's the Sharks that get home. And and when you consider how many games Penrith pulled out of their ass last season, it's pretty crazy that this season in 2019, they found a way to lose that one. Really impressive win for the Sharks. Look, as much as it's disappointing not to sweep 6 out of 6 bets, when you consider they lost Valentine Holmes, no Graham, Matt Moylan's injured, Aaron Woods is injured. Fafita was not meant to play. He's out there on one leg, could barely move, still scores a try in the comeback. And Dugan was sick all day and absolutely useless during the game, scores the winning try. As I said, Sharks had no right to win. That shows they've got a lot of character, and Penrith played some really good footy first half. Their attack looked as good as it's looked all season, but they were the ones that ran out of legs at the end, and that's very disappointing for them. I think now just 2 wins from 6, but good start for us. Now, the next game was an interesting one. Friday afternoon, the Rabbitohs won 14-6 against the Dogs. We had 5 tips on the game and went 3-2, so we're always happy with that if we can win 60%. Now, look, was it a terrible game? Yes, it was a terrible game. Was it boring? I don't find a game like that boring. The score was 14-6 in the 27th minute. No one scored in the final 53 minutes, and we had +10. So I was on the edge of my seat for the entire game because that game was so close to being blown apart. One more Rabbitohs try, and the Dogs would have got rolled in that one. And if the Dogs could have taken one of the few chances they had, they could have been right back in the game. So it was a total arm wrestle. Look, one thing I did take away from this game, the Dogs are absolutely taking advantage of the leniency on trying not to blow penalties this year and to play the ball. They just lay all over the Bunnies all day, and that's why it was so hard to put on points. And it really did, stutter the Bunnies and did not allow them to play any type of open footy. But in the end, the Dogs show their toughness, but the Dogs didn't have a lot in attack either. They lost their fullback, early in the game as well, Nick Meaney. So the Rabbitohs winning ugly again. They got 5 from 6 wins, and they've still got improvement in them. The Dogs, we know that, best case for them is often just being able to tooth and scrap and claw. And that's what they did in that game, enough for us to win 3 out of 5 best bets. You contrast that with Friday night, the game of the season. I didn't just wake up. I actually just always look like this. I know I'm no oil painting, that's for sure. And I do apologise that people have to stare at my face. But I hope I can add value and share a bit of insight into the footy if you didn't catch all the games. But I hope that everyone caught the game on Friday night in Roosters Storm. I think this was the game of the season. And I feel like we saw the best 2 teams, not just this season, but like the best 2 teams of the last decade, both playing almost at their peak for about 20 minutes at different stages of this game. And the Roosters built a 20-point lead before the Storm rolled back to get to 20 all, and that was still with half an hour to play, and then there was no points, and we get to golden point, and I'm sure you all saw what happened with Latrell Mitchell's field goal. You know what? I really don't regret the fact we had the Storm in this one. We actually had 4 bets on the game and still go 2-1 with 1 push. Again, we bet the Storm to win in a 2-way market on 365, which results the game in 80 minutes. So we got money back for that. We actually won 2 of the other 3 bets. So again, we made money on this game. And I really felt like the Storm had to win this one. And again, I'm really impressed by the effort by the Roosters. When you consider they lost Josh Morris, Jake Friend has been out, Liu, they lost TKO in the warm-up, Kiri had a concussion. How did the Roosters win this game? It was pretty ridiculous, and while the Storm can be happy that they got back, I really felt that once they got the score to 20 all, I was fairly sure the Storm would roll over them. So you've got to be, totally impressed by the resilience of the Roosters. I mean, they had 3 blokes on the bench that I think had played 1 NRL game or on debut, and in the end, it was one of the lads on debut, Tupuina, if I'm saying that correct, who makes the break in golden point, which sets up the winning field goal. But for them to do that, I guess a point I would make about this game is when you bet against teams that have superstars, then every now and then they're going to do some superstar shit. And look, we don't set out every week saying I want to bet against James Tedesco and Latrell Mitchell, but we did feel the Storm with a value at home for revenge and with a stronger, roster with less injuries. But the shit that Teddy and Latrell did in that first half to build that lead that ultimately was enough to get them home, you can't stop that. And the next game we're going to talk about New Zealand and another superstar in RTS that did hurt us, although luckily not too much. That's the way it goes. Superstar players keep you in games, and that's a super impressive win for the Roosters. The Storm won't be overly disappointed in that one. Then as I foreshadowed a second ago, then on Saturday we had the Cowboys against the Warriors. And I mean, there's a comment there about not stopping to pick the Broncos, but someone did say that as well about the Cowboys in the last few weeks, that we shouldn't be on them. But again, the ugly side is the right side with the value in the punting. And in fact, the Cowboys got the outright win. And look, we're happy. We had 5 tips on the game and we won 4, lost 1. The one tip we lost was the Cowboys to score more than 2 tries. And even though they scored 17 points, they actually only got 2 tries, plus a couple penalties and a field goal. But we're always happy to win 4 out of 5. And Tony Roberts is commenting, you can still get the Cowboys plus 4.5 against the Dogs. And back in the day, we used to take early bets, like a week ahead. We'd say, that's a great line, grab it. But everyone smashes it too quickly and it wasn't available for enough blokes. So we don't personally give out early best bets again. But in our group, a lot of good lads still share really good value plays, and you can still get on that. And I do suggest if you can get the Cowboys plus 4.5 against the Dogs, you should do that. It was a really impressive win by the Cows. Look, they went to New Zealand with a game plan. They knew they were completely outmatched in the outside backs, and that did show its hand. I mean, some of the shit that the Kiwis did just made them look like little kids playing against their dads. But the Cowboys, they just played high completion footy. They didn't try and offload. They didn't try anything too tricky. Every kick was to the sideline, trying to slow the game down, reducing the amount of times RTS could run back at them. There were a couple of kicks that were massive in this game. One that was skidding through to RDS that he knocked on at a really crucial moment, and another that skidded through that Malmelo showed no urgency to, and ends up being a 40-20. And they were both massive, both by Morgan, who had a whale of a game. I thought Maguire and McLean were huge. They did step up, and someone had to on this Cowboys team with Taumalolo out. But I will say, although Blake Green, again, didn't play, New Zealand have to be kicking themselves. That's 2 games in a row they really should have won. They wasted opportunities. I think they had 6 times the line breaks of the Cowboys. They just did not execute, and they did not build pressure. And look, I'm happy. We won on the Cowboys. But the Warriors probably should have won that game. They let that one slip. But hey, that's what the Warriors do. So we were on the Warriors, a week before against the Bunnies. And while they covered, we were disappointed they didn't win. This time we went against them, and we were happy to do that. Another really good game on Saturday night in Dragons Manly. An absolute arm wrestle there. We were on Manly, had 5 tips on the game, won 3, lost 1. And again, we pushed 1. The bet that we pushed was pretty lucky. We had Manly plus 4 points in the first half. They were down 4, and Laffey misses a penalty from in front. And so the margin at halftime remained 4, and we get money back for that instead of losing. But, in saying that, it was 1 try each in the first half. You had a team plus 4, so we'll take a push there. And the first half I was worried because I'm thinking, where the fuck are the points coming for Manly here? With no Trbojevic, we just know that their attack is very, very limited. And although they put on a bunch of tries early against the Knights, what does that mean? Other than that, Manly have not been able to score this season without Trbojevic. So I was like kind of worrying how Manly can stay in this match. But they stayed in it with defence. And in the second half, they actually got a pretty lucky try, an offload through the legs. DCE comes up with it, scores under the post. They got their noses in front. And we were catching, I think, for Manly, like +8 points in the game and a couple other markets like that. So we were in a very good position to cover. But the game actually went to another level with the last 15 minutes. The Dragons ramped it up with their defensive intensity. Everyone was running the ball hard like a madman. It was a wild game. The crowd was into it. It was really entertaining to watch. And, it gets decided by a try off a kick with 3 minutes to go. They couldn't really break their line with a conventional line break. But a great kick by Ben Hunt. And, the Dragons got the winning try. Now, if you saw what happened at the end of the game, Manly were dudded. Should have had a penalty, which would have been a shot at goal to tie the game. No guarantee DC even kicks it. And from our betting point of view, none of our bets would have been impacted by that decision. But in terms of who wins and who loses, that was pretty raw deal for Manly, especially when there was an escort penalty at the other end of the field to the Dragons. So tough one for Manly, but again, we won money. I think that's 5 out of 5 games of the round that we won money. Then moving to the Sunday, we didn't actually put any bets on the Titans-Knights game. While we spoke about thinking the Titans were the better team and that it could be an open game and a high-scoring game, we were actually scared to bet against the Knights after they played so shit against Manly. We thought that they would lift. They only had one win this season and it was in round 1. So we thought the Knights would come in really desperate. And there was also news that Ash Taylor, had the strained ACL. And we just a little bit gun shy and didn't back the Titans. So what happens? What was it? 18-0, 24-0 to the Titans. And of course, we're kicking ourselves for not having money on it. But if we're not, very confident, we won't put a best bet down. So it kind of went the way we expected, but we didn't make any money, which is unfortunate. Look, another takeaway, Connor Watson is terrible. And I know there was lots of issues with the Knights, starting with their defence, but in terms of their attacking execution, it seems like more often than not, Watson has a hand in one of their many, many bumbles. So that's a concern. And for the Titans, it's great for them to get a win against Penrith, to get a win here, but Proctor was ruled out in the warm-up, and even worse, Ryan James, ACL, suspected there. That is a huge loss for them. Although they get the win here, that is going to hurt them a lot this season in terms of real chance to push towards the 8. And I said before the season, I thought the Titans were a top 8 side, but geez, they've had the injury bug when you consider their starting halves didn't play till like round 4. And they, Jared Wallace was out for this game as well. And as I said, Proctor and Ryan James, that hurts. So good result by Titans, but it doesn't mean I'll be rushing to bet on them, in the next coming weeks with key players who may not be able to play. And then Broncos Raiders. And I know that we copped a bit of shit for taking the Broncos. And everyone's kind of forgetting the fact that we got Broncos +4.5 at $1.95 and they lost the game by 4. So that wins. We also took the Broncos to score more than 6 points in the first half. They only had 4 points, blew some chances, and end up with 22 points in the game. But that lost, and we had Raiders under 10.5 points in the first half, which lost as well. So we did lose a little bit of money on this game. And when the game started, I didn't feel great about the Broncos tip catching the points because I felt like, Jesus, Raiders side, they do look better, they look stronger, and they're at home, so we're in trouble here. But I've got to say, the Broncos fought back. It was an entertaining game, and from the Broncos being down 10 at half-time to coming back, scoring back-to-back tries, getting in front, the Broncos were leading 16-14. Jimmy the Jet was on the bench and brought onto the field, and he looked fit. He looked fast. He just probably didn't have the match fitness to go 80. It really seemed like Brisbane was going to get the upset here. So we, at that point, feeling really good about catching Brisbane +4.5. And then the game was flipped on a brilliant kick by Jack Whiten, who I've got to admit, it surprised me how well he has played in the 6 jersey there. One of many surprises in that team that I didn't really see coming this season, and that's why they're so good in their 5 out of 6. Huge 40-20, and then in that attacking set, when the Raiders were down 2, it's this John Bateman, who is involved in everything good for the Raiders every single week, who beats a couple players, including Payne Haas, the 19-year-old who's asked to play 80 minutes in the middle, beats him when he had no right to, and scores on the try line. And the Raiders scored again with a pretty lucky try that hit, I think, Jack Whiten's head. And even then was potentially offside, but line ball, and they give the Raiders the try there. But I think the Raiders deserve the win. But I just think people need to pump the brakes on heaping shit on the Broncos. And I know that we are Brisbane fans, but you boys know that we've copped shit in the past for not betting on Brisbane. We're not trying to be biased. I try and think about it like the Brisbane lost to the Storm. They lost to the Roosters, who've been beating basically everyone since round 1. They lost 2 games on the final play to the Tigers and to the Dragons. Dragons are on a 4-game winning streak, and they competed pretty hard down in Canberra. So, and as I said, the line, worst case you got +4, as we had in one of our multis. And I should talk about our multis too. We had a same game multi in that game that doubled your money, so we're happy with that. We had another 5-leg multi paying 30-1. And 3 of the legs landed exactly on the number. So we had Penrith +4 that I spoke about. We had Broncos, because they were only +4 on this bookie, 365, not the 4.5. So that was a push. And we had the Storm that, as I said, 365 will result that at 80 minutes, which was a push as well. So it became a 2-leg multi. So it didn't pay 30 times your money, it paid 4 times your money. But if you had that on any other bookie, that lost. So you got to be happy with 4 times your money on a multi as well. So pretty funny round where 3 or 4 of the games were decided almost exactly at the line that the bookies set. If you recall the Dogs game as well, which was a line around 8, pretty much any book, but I think we got 8.5 or even 10 earlier in the week. But a lot of these games played very close to the way the bookies predicted them. But we're very happy to make money on the multis and on the best bets. And overall, we're very happy with a round where we win 67% of our bets. I'll be back on my own on Wednesday to preview round 7 on Zero Fucks Given at 6 p.m. for everyone who's keen to tune in. So thank you. I hope everyone had a great long weekend, and thanks for tuning in tonight. And we'll catch you back on Wednesday. Cheers, lads.